What's up, A to Z Sports here live on a Friday. Gonna have a good show. It's the first time I've talked to Sam on the show, and I don't know when last. Like
Long time.
at the combine.
No. Well,
Yeah,
maybe.
I think
It could be.
so.
Yeah, I actually think it is.
Yeah, first time in a while at the combine when we pre-recorded a show in the evening for the next day is the last time. We haven't done a live show in a bit. So gonna have a great conversation here. I got a little bit of Sam's catch-up show yesterday that I was able to watch as well. But gonna talk a little about the Cam Ward comps that are starting to become more mainstream, and people are saying like, okay, like I can see that. I see the Steve McNair comp. I see the Patrick Mahomes comp. And we've got two NFL draft analysts. One of them, one of the most popular, most widely known NFL draft analysts, Todd McShay, kind of talking about one of these two comps. Both of these clips that we were about to play this morning are from the Buck Rising Show on 104.5 The Zone. So having a great conversation here today. Richie says comps are red flags. I don't think so. I think if you understand the context of the comp conversation, then I think comps are helpful. So that's all it is. And Caleb asks, is it live or did you just say that while recording it yesterday to throw us off the set? No, we're live. We're live
Very
here
live.
On this Friday. So Sam, good morning. And let's get everybody in here on the show. We've also got Friday good news. So get ready for your good news to drop off at the end of this Friday. Jeff, I'll address your situation and your comments there shortly too. But Sam, welcome in. Let's get it going.
Yeah, let's get it going here. Everybody needs to be like Richie G this morning because Richie G, he's number one on the like, and he's choosing A to Z over the live UFC weigh-in. So a huge loyalty flex from Richie G. We appreciate you. And if you're joining us here, you got to help us get the word out that we're live. So hit that share button this morning. Go on Facebook. Hit the share button in the bottom right corner. Get it out on the feed. Let people know A to Z is talking Cam Ward, Patrick Mahomes, and Steve McNair all in one show. You got to get in here if you're a Titans fan right now. So hit that share button. Hit that like as well. We want to see those like numbers skyrocket here on a Friday morning. If you're on YouTube, take that YouTube link. You can send it to a friend, to a group chat. You can repost us on Twitter X as well. And just with one click of a button, get that repost out there so that people know to join the conversation. That's the thing that you got to do before we kick it off on a Friday morning in the first Austin and Sam show back together.
Yeah, in over a month. Crazy. All right, let's get it going officially. Welcome to A to Z Sports here live on a Friday. I'm Austin Stanley. He's Sam Phelan, one of our Titans reporters for A to Z Sports.com. We're Nashville's on-demand sports network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. Got to give us that 5-star Google review. That goes a long way for us. A to Z Sports is where to look for that Google review option. Gathering our sponsors, they make it happen for us, and they help out all of you. Wilson County Hyundai, make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see them in Lebanon or online, wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. And also our friends at Bart Durham Injury Law, where a crash can change your life forever, but help is just a click away at bartdurham.com. So Sam, it feels weird. Like we've been talking a lot about Cam Ward, but I feel like we actually haven't talked a lot about Cam Ward like as the actual quarterback. Like we haven't talked about like what he does well, what he struggles with, like where he can like, you know, we haven't gotten there yet. He's not officially a Titan. He's as official a Titan as you could possibly be. 2 weeks away from the draft. 2 weeks from right now, we'll be reacting to the first round of the NFL draft that would be in the books, and Cam Ward will be a Titan. But we haven't really gotten and it's been a long time since we've done it. Maybe we did that back in like January, February, early, about why is Cam Ward the type of prospect to be the number one overall pick as a quarterback. But we do have two NFL draft analysts here to get to, and these are pretty decently lengthy clips. So I want to go ahead and jump into them. Todd McShay was.
I should say, Austin. Okay. Before we potentially jump into these clips, do we need to address the situation in the comments? Because we are doing a Sam catch-up, right? I'm getting caught up on all things in sports.
Okay.
And Big Ten Jeff. is alerting me to a situation that I need to be caught up on and that I think we might need some Austin Stanley commentary on.
Okay,
Is
that's fine.
Nico Iamaleava leaving Tennessee?
All right. So, Jeff, is Nico leaving Tennessee? Molly.
I'm sorry to start the show with it, but
No,
like,
look, that's fine.
what...
And I brought it up, and I was going to mention that, but I got distracted and kept going on with the regularly scheduled program. But all right, so it came out yesterday afternoon. Pete Nakos of On3 reported that Nico Iamaleava and the Tennessee Volunteers were in a new contract negotiation, and it was quote unquote unclear if this would have Iamaleava enter the spring transfer portal window or not. So there's a lot of like couching there, right? Now, what I do know is that there has been ongoing discussions between Tennessee's people and Nico's people about the NIL deal that he signed over 3 years ago that was for an $8 million deal over his entire career at Tennessee, which people are saying he's roughly in that $2 million, 2 point something million dollar range for a quarterback, which was one of the biggest deals that came out first. But now you're seeing quarterbacks that are going to the transfer portal and getting $3 million a year. I know per a source, John Mateer, who was at Cam Ward's old stomping grounds, is trying to do the same thing that Cam Ward did, go from Washington State to another bigger program, get a payday, but also get a promotion of eyeballs and maybe improve his stock. Now, $8 million is insanity, Orlando says. Yeah, $8 million is insanity, but if it's over a 4-year or 3-year process, it's really not that crazy because John Mateer went from Washington State to Oklahoma for $3 million a year, right? Carson Beck is going from Georgia to Miami for north of $3 million a year. There are other quarterbacks coming out that are doing this for well over $3 million a year. So the price has changed. It's just like in the NFL when you're like, hey, I want a new contract because all these quarterbacks that are better than I'm better than are getting $50 million a year, but I signed my contract 3 years ago, which is when Nico did it, and he's now being technically under market. So that is what I believe is happening. Is he actually going to leave the Tennessee Volunteers? I highly doubt that because you have Nico's father and a close family friend speaking loudly on Twitter about how this is not true and calling Pete Nako names. But, it's a bunch of he said all the time.
What kind of leverage does Nico have here? Because, like you Google Nico Iamaleava right now and every result is about how he's enjoying this leverage over Tennessee as he looks to renegotiate his NIL deal. But Austin,
what headline is that? Enjoying the leverage.
Let's see.
Nobody. It's not like a Nico.
Enjoy some leverage from USA Today. Nico Iamaleava enjoys some leverage on Tennessee Volunteers, but don't overplay the hand, is what the headline reads.
Right.
I'm curious when you look at the college football landscape, Austin, and really it comes from like you look at John Mateer, you look at Carson Beck, you look at all these guys that you said. The portal has moved already. Like spring football is here. Like these programs have their guys for 2025. So if Nico did decide that Tennessee wasn't where he wanted to be, is there a high level Power 4 program that could pay him what he wants that also has availability at quarterback right now? Is that out there for him? And like, what do you think his actual options are if he was to go and hit the portal?
I think somebody would take him. Like somebody would absolutely take him and pay him what he's wanting. But I also don't think he's trying to do that. There's also a different caveat to this particular timing of earlier in the week, there was a lawsuit with Congress about the revenue sharing where it would adjust in the future on how NIL deals are done. There will be a revenue share process that is more like a salary cap for our normal terms, where a salary cap is what you can do for your entire athletic department. But then an NIL deal is truly going to be like, there has to be deliverables attached to the money. It can't just be like, oh, Booster gave player this much money for doing nothing besides playing football. The NIL deals moving forward, once this goes into place, is a very transactional, like, you're going to promote my brand on your social media, and I'm going to pay you this because that's the transaction right there. So this opportunity, there's one more shot for players to get in and make the unregulated amount of NIL money that they possibly can. So there's also that too. Like,
yeah,
I think Nico's going to stay at Tennessee. And they've been working through this since December. And so I think just like in every contract negotiation.
What is the deadline to get this done by?
Well, there's the spring transfer portal window after spring practice. May, I want to say. I don't remember exactly the dates, but after spring practice, when players understand where they may be on their roster, their depth chart, if they don't have playing time opportunities, they can go somewhere else. Or coaches can. That's why spring games aren't on TV anymore, is because spring coaches can watch spring games like, ooh, that little like fourth string running back's got some juice. Let's go get him, right? So like they don't want to do that anymore. So there's a lot of negotiating and where is this coming? Like whose side is leaking this out? Who does it benefit? All this kind of stuff. I don't think there's much to it. This is a move that would probably get Nico slightly more money than if it wasn't public. And so look, that's just how things happen, right?
Sure. All right. Well, I felt like you needed to address that. Like it's not every day that we've got the Tennessee quarterback staring down the barrel of potentially transferring to Alabama, as Jeff says in the comments. Yes, so we need to talk about it on the show.
Sure. Right. All right. So that's that. But hopefully,
I guess sorry to keep you off topic here, but I didn't get a chance. How are we doing with the Elite Eight loss? What was are we feeling okay? I remember you kind of saying Sweet 16 was house money for you, right? Was that what you said?
Yeah, the Elite Eight loss. I feel like I watched the same thing in Columbus, Ohio in the college football playoff. The game was over so fast that it took the sting out of it.
Sure.
So it was very much like Tennessee losing to Houston in the Elite Eight was Tennessee losing to Ohio State in the college football playoff. It sucked. They got there. I wish they could make a damn shot and have better shot selection in the first 15 minutes of the game. And that's what lost them. They lost the game in the first 10 to 15 minutes, and that sucks. But, Houston's a good team. And shout out to Houston for doing all that. I made a bunch of money.
Really good team. Yeah.
I made a lot of money, Sam, in the tournament.
Was it a lot of emotional hedging, or was it just like
no, I was up 25 units throughout the whole tournament.
Sheesh. Okay.
So, just saying. All right. So now let's get on topic here. Okay. So player comps. Cam Ward. Who does he compare to? So we'll start with Todd McShay, who is formerly at ESPN, now with The Ringer, doing his own podcast with The Ringer. I'm a big Todd McShay fan. Todd McShay was once the understudy of Mel Kiper Jr. If you're a draft nerd like I am that grew up through the industry, then you love some Mel Kiper and Todd McShay. But Todd McShay was on with Buck Rising and Lucas Panzica earlier in the week on 104.5 The Zone and was talking about Cam Ward as a whole and brought something up that Buck and Lucas were previously talking about with a player comp for Cam Ward.
I think the thing that goes unnoticed is he has an unworldly sense of when pressure is coming and the poise combined with that to wait for it. He knows it a tick before he's going to react to it. He knows it's coming from the front side, the back side, interior. You can tell he knows when it's coming because he likes to wait to the last second to elude it because then you're vulnerable as a defender. Other quarterbacks, if you really study it, a lot of quarterbacks, when they know it's coming or they sense it, at that same point where he decides to wait a tick so that he can get that defender kind of off balance. And I heard you guys talking about Mahomes. Like, it is kind of a similar trait. Neither's a beautiful athlete. Neither's going to run a great 40 time if you clock him right now. But there's this instinctive aspect to their game where, like, okay, go ahead, take one or two more steps towards me, because if you do, then I got you off balance. And then I'm going to pull the trigger on the move that I already know I'm going to make. And I think that goes kind of, I don't want to say unnoticed, but I don't hear a lot of people talking about that aspect of his game. And so much of his game is that ability to kind of elude a defender and then make a great throw on the move. The second part that I think is and he's not unique to it, but he's in a small group of people that can throw as accurately as he does from different arm angles. And then the thing I think that, because we get so enamored with the highlights, with Cam Ward, when you get him to the top of his drop and he plants that right foot and he's in rhythm with the receiver, he's an absolute freaking assassin. If the receiver's where he's supposed to be, and he knows where he wants to go with the ball in terms of throwing a receiver open, hitting a spot. When it's all in rhythm, and I think that's like as Tennessee dug into this, and Brian Callahan's watching and you're watching through whatever lens is important for you, right? And so Callahan and the offensive staff for Tennessee is watching through the lens of, okay, here's what we do. Here's what we're going to need him to do within the structure of our offense.
So there's Todd McShay on Cam Ward, the assassin, right? Cool, buzz, nice, very positive. But the Patrick Mahomes comp, and let's be like upfront with this because Vols 8 says these draft comps are hilarious. So whenever you hear draft comp, it is not saying that prospect is going to reach the level of success that the NFL player they're being comped to is going to be. It's about style, who their play reminds them of, some of their skill sets, their strengths, their weaknesses, their body type, different things like that. And so when you look at what McShay is saying about the Patrick Mahomes comp that he is buying into with Cam Ward is we've seen it watching Titans versus Chiefs games. If you've watched any NFL game, you've seen Patrick Mahomes just put defenses in a blender on third and whatever, and he has one defender that's in a no man's land, and he's rolling out, he's either going to run the ball or he's going to dump it over the defender's head for a first down. And the defender has to pick a spot, and he loses. Patrick Mahomes wins. And I think that particular skill set is what McShay is saying that Cam Ward has. It's setting up defenders to be in lose-lose spots, which is a skill set, is a talent, and I think that's very valuable. And I'll let you react to this here in a second, but Tall Texan does have a really good comment that Todd McShay actually brought up in his interview, saying he's just like 90% of the quarterbacks today, better off script because they aren't trained to stand in there and get the ball out. 7-on-7 has created this. So, yes, and McShay brought up that I think back in the day, like Jared Goff was deemed as like the last guy like that to go number one, the last like pocket guy to go number one overall, because you're not going to see that type of quarterback anymore. But Cam Ward's also not what we see, because Cam Ward didn't grow up being trained to be a quarterback from 9 years old, because he was a wing T athlete playing quarterback in high school. And now he's been able to develop into this. So Tall Texan's correct that a lot of them have like playmaking, like rec pickup ball type skill sets, because that's what the youth game has shown, and it's been less structured.
Yeah, and especially when you look at like prospects, right? You know, I had this whole take that I ranted about over and over and over again, talking about Shedeur Sanders as a prospect in this year's draft, and I still believe it. Just when you look at what we value as the NFL world, and if you really hone in on evaluators and what evaluators consider to be high upside or a high ceiling player, or really highly touted prospects, so often now it is about those guys that play off schedule, that have those sort of like quirky home run abilities, rather than the guys that play that pocket passer in structure type of roles. So I don't think that this is not as like a knock against Cam Ward, but I don't think this is terribly unique right now for when you look at guys that are highly touted prospects at the top of the draft to have these sort of abilities to extend plays and throw from different arm angles. That's what we look for. And what we, to that point again, how we teach kids and the youth to play quarterback now is that, the best quarterback to be a high profile NFL draft prospect is to not be this pocket passing presence, but is to have the sort of improvisation out of structure ability to you.
Yeah, I think there's also, before we get to the Steve McNair side of this thing, because we do have another draft analyst that brings up the Steve McNair side, is that, and to go back to basketball, because I like to make basketball correlations to other things and just life in general. And I feel like going back to Tennessee, I was watching a lot of Tennessee basketball this past year, and I see the difference of an indoor basketball guy versus an outdoor basketball guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can tell it's the same thing. Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. Shedeur Sanders has been in every lab, right? Every private training session, all of these, like he's had these resources. He's been in a great spot. He's been coached so well and is taking that coaching so well. and is trained and polished and gets it on how to be a quarterback. It's not a bad thing, but that is clearly Shedeur Sanders as a polished quarterback prospect. Cam Ward, you can tell he kind of grew up not being that way. And I was watching Tennessee basketball. For those who get this, Chaz Lanier, in my opinion, is the Shedeur Sanders. He's an indoor basketball guy. He's played on organized teams. He's had great coaching. He's super talented. He's taken to the coaching. But against Houston, they throw all that out because they'll punch you in the face and make you play outdoor basketball. An indoor basketball guy gets uncomfortable with outdoor basketball guy because it's rough. You can't get open shots. You're going to have to do some different things. Shoot off balance. Cam Ward, outdoor basketball guy, shoots off balance, makes these odd throws like Patrick Mahomes and like Steve McNair that we're talking about. And you see, I like the combination of, can you translate? Can you have the training that makes you better, but can you also translate to the outdoor basketball guy? Can you go find a game and go compete and play and make plays? Or are you only going to be able to make plays when the screen hits right and the defense is in the right spot, you curl off of it and you hit the shot, right? Like, it's all of those things. And I think Cam Ward is a good look into, has been around structure for long enough, but has that foundation of playmaking because I got to go make plays because that's how I came up. And Dalton Knecht is an outdoor basketball guy. And you're seeing how that worked with Tennessee last year. And just in the Elite Eight, Dalton Knecht goes for 37. And in the Elite Eight, Chaz Lanier starts 0 for 7 from the field because Houston's all up in his face and he can't figure it out. Yeah. And I think that's my kind of take on what Cam Ward is too, which I like. I like the idea that the guy can be a little bit rougher on the edges because it ain't going to be perfect. It's going to be very muddy, and that's what the NFL defense wants to do.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this. I guess, do you want me to get into my full reaction to the Mahomes comparison before we get into the McNair stuff?
Let's play the McNair comparison, and then we can go through and figure out which one we like best, which one is more accurate. So we've gone through the Patrick Mahomes comp for Cam Ward. Now let's get to Nate Tice of Yahoo Sports, who was on with Buck Rising a couple weeks ago, who brought up the Steve McNair side of Cam Ward.
Sequence was it for you that led you to start to have that comparison?
There's a couple runaround plays where Ward is bouncing off tackles or running out of kind of arm tackles in the pocket and would do like a little half spin. And I was like, I've seen this before. And then I kind of looked at the height and weight and I was, man, where is this? And good old YouTube. I remember McNair from back when I was, a teenager and a kid and everything. But again, I just want to rekindle the brain a little bit. And looking at it, they have the exact same build. They're both, Steve McNair was sub 6'2" at the combine. He's 6'1.5" or 6'1.75". I think they are almost the exact same height as Cam Ward. Cam Ward was 219, I think, at the combine. I think McNair was like 223, 224. So within the same little range there, same weight class, I would say. I would say McNair, though, had a stronger arm and was a little bit faster. Like, he had a little bit more traits than Ward does. But play style, that sense of calmness, that toughness as a runner, they win more with balance and contact balance and strength as opposed to maybe outright speed. Throwing creativity, I thought McNair was always one of the best players I've ever seen throwing on the move. And I think Ward is very accomplished in that area as well. It just happened that, the Titans might be taking Cam Ward at the number 1 pick. And the McNair was my comparison even from a few months ago, just waiting for the process to kind of like maximize where eyeballs on it, making that comparison. Now Titans have the number 1 pick. So I was like, oh, this kind of works out. But no, just build maybe some of the creation plays where it was a lot of those little half spins and everything. The throwing style isn't exactly the same. McNair was a little more traditional, a little bit more 3/4. But still, as far as just that creativity as a player with the build and with that strength and with that just calm demeanor. I don't know how to describe it. Just that I can't relate because I was a little more frantic as a quarterback. So, but just watching McNair and then watching Ward, just that sense of calmness on every play. Like, they always know what the answer is going to be, even if the path to get to the answer where they have to show their work might be a little unorthodox, as I'll put it again. But again, I think it's a pretty easy comparison, one I've started to really like as I kind of even have sat and marinated on a little bit. That's why I kind of keep touting it a little bit.
So there's Nate Tice, who's buying into the Steve McNair comp for Cam Ward. Todd McShay agreeing with the aspect of the Pat Mahomes comp for McNair. Now, here's the comment. So it sounds like a McDonald's version of Steve McNair for Cam Ward. McDonald's version is the good version, right?
Yeah,
because here's the
Walmart brand. Walmart brand McNair.
Nate Tice literally called him Diet Coke Steve McNair.
That's fair.
So, but the interesting thing on that is Steve McNair was a 3rd overall pick out of Alcorn State, who was a Heisman finalist. Cam Ward is a Heisman finalist out of Miami, so a higher level program, but also is going to go number 1 overall. So, Diet Coke or just the regular Coke? Is he just a good comp? And I'm not saying he's not the same exact, but Cam Ward's going to go higher than Steve did, but they both had similar success on the field in their college careers, but at different levels of play, even though Cam Ward started even below where Alcorn State was.
Yeah. This one is, a little bit more interesting. It feels more like a vibes check on Cam Ward. One of the main things that Tice is citing is like, a comp is demeanor and calmness, right? Which is more of just like a vibe of like how you watch this guy play, those half spins, just like the style of quarterback that he is, even though admittedly, as Tice says, like their arm angles and stuff are not exactly the same. But I think certainly the name Steve McNair moves the needle for a Titans fan. And so that, convenient, I suppose that that McNair is the comp here for Cam Ward with the Titans sitting with pick number 1.
Yeah. So Anthony says, I'm a Hurricanes fan and I watched Ward the whole season more than most, and which is probably true. He does have the ability like Mahomes also where he can throw across his body and not cause interception. So I think, you saw Mahomes at Texas Tech, Cam Ward in the ACC this past year. Mahomes Big 12 and Cam Ward's ACC are probably fairly similar. The ACC has fallen off quite a bit for competition, and the Big 12 back in that day was not playing any lick of defense. And so I think, you can get away with things against that competition. So let's ask this question, Sam, and I'll let you kind of go full into your thoughts on both of these things, Mahomes and McNair. But which Cam Ward player style comp is more accurate? So again, these are not apples to apples, 100% 1-for-1 comps. We're not saying Cam Ward is McNair or is Mahomes, but there are aspects of what Cam Ward does that remind Todd McShay of Patrick Mahomes and McNair, because he admitted to liking that too, and that really reminds Nate Tice of Steve McNair. So which player style comp for Cam Ward is more accurate, Steve McNair or Patrick Mahomes? We'll share that for your opinions here in a second from the chat. Real quick, I want to tell everybody about Bart Durham Injury Law. You deserve to be paid for what you go through, and Bart Durham Injury Law can be there for you whenever that situation arises. It's never a good thing to be involved in a car accident, but Bart Durham Injury Law can change your life for the better when you have a tough situation like a car accident, a big truck wreck that pops up into your life. You can reach the Bart Durham team 24/7 to get your legal questions answered. Their phone number, very important, their phone number 615-242-9000. That's 615-242-9000. Blair Durham, a great Nashvilleian, Tennessean in our community, lost his father, Bart Durham, just over a year ago. April 9th, a couple days ago, was the 1-year anniversary of Bart's passing. And then last night, as they always do, there was a big-time charity event gala for children's cancer, and Bart Durham Injury Law was a massive sponsor for that event as well. So make sure you check out Bart Durham at bartdurham.com, but the phone number is 615-242-9000, bartdurham.com.
Leave a like on the show. Also subscribe to the YouTube if you're watching with us here at A to Z Sports. We got to see those like numbers go up, not on the same path right now. Easton and I had more likes yesterday. We're talking Cam Ward, Steve McNair, Patrick Mahomes. So this is unacceptable. Yep. We need more likes on the show. Hit that like button. And then if you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe. I said it yesterday. I'll say it again today. It's draft season, 2 weeks away from the NFL draft. We've got constant videos and content coming out, breaking down everything you need to know about the Titans' top 30 visits, the prospects to watch, the draft preview. So it is the best time of year possible to watch A to Z on YouTube and become the most informed person in your friend group about draft possibilities and the prospects that are going to wear two-tone blue. So subscribe to the YouTube and leave a like on the show here on a Friday morning.
All right, so Sam, I will send you the chat. We have asked which Cam Ward player style comp is more accurate between Steve McNair and Patrick Mahomes. So we've played the clips already from both the Buck Rising show this past few weeks or so, where Todd McShay liked the style comp of setting up defenders to fail like Patrick Mahomes does, and Nate Tice with some of the unstructured creative playmaking of Steve McNair, as well as the play strength and some other of that aspect of what Mac 9 had for this franchise back in the day. So Sam, what are you seeing from the chat? Is it McNair or Mahomes? Which is a more accurate player style comp for Cam Ward?
Rookie says Mahomes. Steven says McNair. Eric says McNair is more accurate. We got Mahomes from Kaz. Jeff goes off the board for Brett Favre. Eric says Steve McNair. We got more people going off the board. Says Cam Ward is Baker Mayfield. He plays like Mahomes. Sorry,
I think Baker Mayfield and Brett Favre are fairly similar, and I actually don't think that there's that much separation from what Cam Ward he kind of fits some of those.
Okay, so you don't.
I think Baker and Favre are kind of more quick and quick twitchy and kind of erratic and and higher energy than what Ward is being sold as, so calm and nothing's going to phase him like what you see from McNair, right?
Yeah. DeMario says he's a mix of both, but then we got a run on Mahomes here from American Toff, Tighten Up, Eric, Deshaun, all think Patrick Mahomes here. Jay says Steve McNair. We have Mac 9 from Lee, so he's going with McNair. It's that half spin and McNair for Edward. Let's see what else we got here. We got a lot of people going off the board. Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre, Mac 9. We got Mahomes. We got McNair, Ward equals Romo is the comp from Nate Samuels. McNair from Adam, Mahomes from Cameron, McNair from David. Seems pretty split in the chat, but a lot of people also trying to create an option C for how they see Cam Ward's player comp.
Sam, I've been talking a lot. I'll let you go into it because you said you had a full response opinion about the Patrick Mahomes style comp. So I'll let you have the floor here.
So, I will say out of the two, I would say I think I would be partial to Steve McNair being a better comp than Patrick Mahomes. I listened to what Todd McShay said, and there are two things that he said that were his basis for the comparison to Patrick Mahomes. Number one is an unreal sense of pressure when pressure is coming, his ability to evade it, get guys off balance. And then he also says accurate from many different arm angles. I think both of those things are very, 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 very Patrick Mahomes. And I disagree that Cam Ward does either of them. I think that's Todd McShay's opinion, so I can understand why he draws that comparison if he believes those things. I don't know where we have this idea that he has an unreal sense of pressure. So I went back and I checked the Patrick Mahomes pressure to sack rate, sense of pressure in college at Texas Tech versus Cam Ward. Patrick Mahomes had a 10.2 pressure to sack rate during his entire college career at Texas Tech. It's over 20%, more than double for Cam Ward at throughout his entire college career. It was 15.8 this year, the best of his college career, which a lot of people give him praise for, but it was over 20% again in conference play. It elevated over 20% against the ACC, not a great ACC. By the way, the best defense he played all year was the 36th ranked Cal was the best defense Cam Ward played this past season. It was Ball State, Florida A&M. Those are the teams that he was putting up these great pressure to sack rate numbers on.
That Cal game was wild. And that thing didn't end until almost 2 a.m. and Reese Davis lost his voice.
If you look at production, right? Patrick Mahomes, 421 passing yards per game. Cam Ward, 331 yards per game. Patrick Mahomes had pretty above average rushing upside at over 43 yards rushing per game in college. Cam Ward down at 15 yards per game. Big time throw percentage is somewhat similar, 6.7% to 6.3% between Mahomes and Ward. I just don't think Ward does these accuracy. And then I've looked in the past and broken down like this weighted on target percentage of accuracy of throws. I disagree with the idea that he is an assassin when you let him pick apart a defense. He is not an accurate thrower of the football. So for me, I disagree with a lot of McShay's like key points as to why he draws this comparison to Mahomes. I don't think it's a fair comparison, mind you. I just think that this is I think this is, you're trying to get people excited about Cam Ward in the draft. So you bring up the name Patrick Mahomes and everybody gets pumped. I can see Steve McNair a little bit more because Steve McNair was a really imperfect thrower of the football. He was not very accurate, but he was a good creator. And on the run, he could create things and make things happen. I do think the calmness, the sort of nonchalantness of Cam Ward can remind people of like the calm demeanor and composure of Steve McNair. So yeah, McNair, stronger arm, bigger gunslinger, a little bit faster. But I think that sort of creativity, the calmness that, was Nate Tice brought up, I think that clicks more to me than the Patrick Mahomes by a wide margin. I will say, and I hate to do this, I'm off the board too. Allow me to do a blind resume for you here.
Can you pause?
Sure.
And keep that in your back pocket because I'm going to get through some of this. We might have to scrap our second topic. Just save it for another day because we are deep into this show after some of our U-turns at the very beginning. So I did see some comments that I wanted to get to about this because he is like Cam Ward is not a runner. As some people say, like, oh, Lamar Jackson. No, not even close. Not even close. And I think the whole idea of not playing strong defenses at Miami is the same thing you can say about Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech and absolutely Steve McNair at Alcorn State.
But I think I think that like with Mahomes for me, that's why I draw that like production comparison. Like if you look at their production scores, the Mahomes production is just it like it's also bad. It's also bad competition, but it's another level, like over 100 passing yards per game.
Sure,
rushing
look at the offensive philosophies from the coach of Miami and the coach of Texas Tech for the respective quarterbacks, very different. Like there was no run game. Like go look at the Texas Tech. Like the Texas Tech run game was like Shedeur Sanders' run game at Colorado, non-existent, where you had 1,000-yard running back for Miami, I believe. Right. And he's like a 5th round-ish prospect.
Yeah.
I think he was close to 1,000, if not there. But so there was a difference of what Miami was doing. There was a lot of people that doubted Patrick Mahomes' ability to translate to the NFL. Me, I was one of them. I think you can say the same thing about Steve McNair.
For sure.
When you look at Steve McNair YouTube highlights and things that I remember watching when I was a kid of him with the Titans and they throw back, the Alcorn State highlights, Steve McNair looked like the creative player that you made on NCAA football 2004. Like he was just so much bigger, stronger, had 99 arm strength, had 99 power. He had it was jacked up. Like he could do whatever he wanted to because he was playing at Alcorn State and it wasn't fair. It looked like he was a senior in high school playing against 8th graders. And Cam Ward is doing this at the ACC level. ACC was bad and that's fine, but he's got a lot of high-level production, just like Mahomes had a lot of high-level production at Texas Tech. Ward won more games than Mahomes did. I think there's some of that. Now, like, you can, poke holes in so many different things of all 3 of these quarterbacks we've been talking about. But, like, to answer the question before you get into your blind resume thing, because I'm very interested in that, the poll that I put up 8 minutes ago, 57% say Steve McNair is a more accurate style comp than Patrick Mahomes. I also agree. But I think Cam Ward reminds me of NFL style McNair, not college style McNair.
I can see that, right?
And I think we have to look at
It's hard
how,
with Mahomes, right? Because the Mahomes comp is so difficult because what Mahomes was out of college, like the prospect that he was, is not the player that he is in the NFL. And the way that he was regarded is not how we regard him now. So you bring up the name Patrick Mahomes, and, you know, it's obviously immediately associated with he's going to be the best person in the world. He's going to be incredible, right? And people did have those doubts, as you said, about like how much stuff would translate and whatnot to the next level.
And there, 24 something years between the draft of McNair and Mahomes, and what both the players had to their benefit was not having to play early. And so they had the ability to make the adjustments from their very unique style of college setup to the NFL, where Cam Ward's going to play day one. But Cam Ward, I think, is better set up to play day one than McNair or Mahomes were.
I agree.
Okay.
Well, we'll have to get to, we got to get to my blind comparison, and we'll see what people think about it.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll get to Sam's blind comparison and see. We'll go off the board and see if we can find a better player style comp for Cam Ward than what Steve McNair and Patrick Mahomes are, from Nate Tice of Yahoo, and also Todd McShay, now of The Ringer. Before we get to this blind resume, I feel like we're going back into March looking at blind resumes for bracketology. But real quick, the Bone and Joint Institute is where you should turn for all of your injury needs. Injuries pop up in life, just like in football. You have to know how you can deal with them, and it always matters how good of a team you have surrounding you to help you through that injury situation. You don't want that to linger. You don't want a setback. You want a plan, and you want somebody to educate you on how to execute that plan so you can stay out of the doctor's office, stay out of the rehab facility, just like I was able to do with some tendonitis in my knee just about a year ago. They said, hey, let's write you up for 12 physical therapy sessions. 7 sessions in, congratulations, you graduated. Here's your t-shirt. You don't have to pay for 5 more sessions just for fun. You've done a good job, and now you know how to manage that knee situation moving forward. So that's what the Bone and Joint Institute can do for you. They are online at boneandjointtn.org, but their facility, state-of-the-art, is right there off of Franklin, in Franklin, off of I-65 and Highway 96. And so they'll catch you there whenever you need them. boneandjointtn.org.
Leave a 5-star Google review. It's that Luman 5-star special. Go to Google, leave A to Z Sports a 5-star review. Helps us out a ton, both on the website and with our shows here every morning. So if you like the show, if you're here with us every morning, if you're a loyal A to Zite watching us talk Titans each day, go ahead, go to Google, leave a 5-star review. It would be much, much appreciated and help out more than you know. So for the Luman special, also would like to once again say to like the show. We are sub 50 likes and over 300 viewers. That's not acceptable. So hit that thumbs up button on Facebook. Facebook people, I'm watching you. YouTube people, watching you as well. Just hit a like. It takes a second while I'm talking to you right now, while we get ready to get into the final stretch of our Friday show.
All right, so Cam Ward, is it more accurate to be McNair comp or Mahomes comp? Now, the poll has shifted pretty dramatically the last few minutes. 61% Steve McNair, 39% Patrick Mahomes. Sam, you and I are both on the on the McNair side of this for that poll result. But what is your blind resume off the board situation here? Did somebody scoop it, or are you good?
Sorry?
No, you sounded exasperated, like somebody spoiled it.
No, it's not
good.
Spoiled. We got a lot to dive into here. I need people to hang with me, listen very carefully, and we can get into this. So I'm not doing a statistic thing, right? Because a lot of this can be relative to like competition, all of this stuff in college, right? Now, I'm not going to do a stat comparison. Good. What I am going to do is a draft profile comparison. So I'm going to start with Cam Ward. Okay. And I want you to listen to the things that are being said about Cam Ward as a draft prospect. Okay. Production score for Cam Ward, 85. Athleticism score, 90. Total score, 86. Okay. So the total score, 86. For
what was the first metric?
It was 85, 90, and then 86 is a total score according to Next Gen Stats. All right. Okay. Let's look at the overview. Gunslinger with good size, big arm and mobility to help out offensive line, can read the field, operates with good decision-making and processing quickness. Like a shortstop, he rips sidearm rockets to fit into tight windows on all 3 levels, but delivery mechanics can cause inconsistencies with some placement and accuracy. Strengths, recognizes pre-snap pressure. He can whip throws into tight windows from 25 yards away. Arm talent to make throws that others in the draft class cannot. Mobility creates longer cover times and second action opportunities. Ability to weave around the pocket away from pressure points. So all of those things that we say, right? Big arm ability, can make throws, can sort of maneuver in the pocket. There's the weaknesses.
I think all those check boxes for McNair and Mahomes too.
Yeah. Too willing to work out of structure and play hero ball. He needs eye discipline to prevent coverage overlaps, gets excited to cuts it loose before a route develops. NFL QB hunters will make him pay for reckless backward scrambles, and he completed just 39% of his passes inside the red zone. Those are some of the knocks on Cam Ward. Blind resume, here's another player comparison. Okay, production score of 87, athleticism score of 84, a total score of 86. The exact same total score. Cam Ward, by the way,
less athletic.
Physically, 6'2", 219 pounds is Cam Ward.
Right.
Second guy, 6'2", 215 pounds. Okay, same body type. Arm length for Cam Ward, 30 5/8 inches. Arm length for player 2, 30 5/8 inches. Cam Ward has 9-inch hands. Player 2 has 9.5-inch hands. Same build and profile here.
Mm-hmm.
Guy number 2 is a quarterback prospect who possesses swagger and arm talent to create explosive plays inside and outside of the pocket. He has a gunslinger mentality and an improvised released points that are clearly patterned off of Aaron Rodgers. His play is a little bit more. Oh, wait, no. I don't want to get too much. I don't want to give it away.
Yeah.
Some tape can show struggles with decision-making, so NFL teams will need to balance his older years and his current years in the evaluation process. His strengths, a huge jump in production in his final college season. He offers has high potential as a full field reader. He has a twitchy operation game to get it out easy and alter arm slots if needed. He generates sudden drive velocity on seam throws, gives big targets a chance to make calls on 50-50 balls. He's got good deep and intermediate accuracy, feels pressure bearing down off the edge, can make subtle pocket slides and stay throw ready while extending plays with a big play mindset outside of the pocket. All of that sounds like Cam Ward to me. All of the same things. What are the knocks against this second guy? Struggled with accuracy and decision-making in some of his games. He hero ball needs to be dialed back a bit. He doesn't work with enough anticipation as a passer. Sometimes he passed up an easy throw for a harder throw. Some ill-advised throws under pressure turned into turnover-worthy plays. A lot of the same pros, a lot of the same cons,
Sure.
A very similar build, very similar competition. This is Zach Wilson.
Okay, I was about to say Zach Wilson was what I was thinking because I knew it was going to be a player that has not worked out.
And I think for me, that is what I see for Cam Ward. Like that is the player that I think, like prospect wise, I think he is closest to Zach Wilson.
See,
in terms of all of the wow abilities with his arm, but questionable moments of hero ball, questions against the competition that he played. Very similar build, close in athleticism, close in college production. Similar wins and loss record too. Like Zach Wilson had BYU and ranked in the top 25, but never quite in that top 10 range. That's where I'm at with it. I think that and blind resume, it's basically like the same pros and the same cons.
See, here's where I strongly disagree with the Zach Wilson thing. Because Zach Wilson truly only had 1 year of data.
True. I suppose.
And that 1 year was freaking good, right? It was 33 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, which reads like an Aaron Rodgers MVP season stat line, right? High touchdowns, low picks. But that's it. Like the 2 years before that,
he had 1 year as the starter, yeah.
Well, he played 3 seasons, but he was splitting time. You know, the year before, his second year at BYU, he threw for 2,400 yards, 11 touchdowns, 9 picks, right? He threw 300. He only threw, I'm doing math on air. He only threw 17 more passes his last year than his second to last year.
Yeah.
So 319 attempts his second to last year, 336 his last year.
Yeah, his production skyrocketed his final year.
By like 1,200 yards, 22 touchdowns, and cut his interceptions in by 2/3. So like that is a big jump from 1 year to the next. Where Cam Ward has been productive for a long time. Like Cam Ward has been productive in Power 4-5 college football for 3 consecutive seasons. I'm not counting his FCS 47 touchdowns and 10 picks at Incarnate Word. I'm not doing that. But 23-9 his first year at Wazoo, touchdowns to INT for 3,200 yards. Then he had 25-7 his last year at Wazoo for 3,700 yards. And then last year at Miami, the best of them all, 39-7 touchdown to INT for 4,300 yards. And so like you're seeing the growth continue where to me, Zach Wilson was very much a 1 year wonder and had BYU arise. Like, so, you know, I don't see, I get like the diving into that profile because they have in quarterbacks, like we talked about at the very beginning in this day and age are going to have very similar pros and cons because they're kind of cut from similar cloths coming up. Cam Ward's a little different, but when you look at year over year stacking, Joe Burrow is kind of the one guy who's gone berserk and has paid off in a big way and not had that year over year stacking.
Yeah.
Like Joe Burrow was
1 year, honestly, production and for Joe Burrow. Well, right. Yeah.
His first year at LSU was like day 3 draft pick. Just like Cam Ward last draft cycle was like 4th, 5th round draft pick out of Washington State. Then elevates himself to a number 1 overall prospect. Joe Burrow did the same thing where he was like middle of the road. Okay. Day 3 NFL prospect his first year at LSU and then bang exploded. And so I'm not saying Cam Ward is Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow is kind of an outlier as far as not having multiple years of high-end production. So that's the one hole I would poke in because stats don't correlate like Mahomes stats and Ward stats. You can't, those are apples and oranges, but you can see like the production stacking year after year and show that, okay, there's some consistency there where, you know, your boy Mitch Trubisky, Anthony Richardson didn't have year over year stacking. They only have small sample size of games. And so you didn't have as much data.
I mean, look, chat's fired up, rattled as they should be, but I expected chat to be rattled. I'll remind the chat that chat didn't love Cam Ward until they realized Cam Ward was getting picked by the Titans. And as soon as you realize
I don't know if I love Cam Ward. Like
everybody is selling themselves on Cam Ward now that you realize Cam Ward is the pick. I'm staying consistent to what my evaluation has been and my opinion has been the entire time. I don't love Cam Ward. I would prefer Shedeur Sanders. And if that makes me a hater or a doubter, count me as a hater and a doubter. Like I think, and it's not necessarily indicative that his career is going to go exactly as Zach Wilson's went. Like I think circumstances are everything for a quarterback, especially a young quarterback. You throw Zach Wilson to the Jets in a horrible situation. We saw it with Sam Darnold, right? Like it rocked Sam Darnold's world in New York, and then
many times with the Jets.
You go to a better situation and it can work. So it can work with Cam Ward, but I think we are out of our mind when we literally sat here 2 months ago, most people in the chat supported Shedeur Sanders over Cam Ward. 2 months ago, fact, by the way, we have the data from podcasts that we did on here. 2 months ago, we sat here and talked about how bad the quarterback class is and how you might want to pass on one of these guys. And now, because Cam Ward is the number 1 overall pick, we're saying he's compared to the greatest quarterback maybe of all time.
No.
And Patrick Mahomes, right? That's the comp that we're drawing. And then we're saying that, maybe we'll take a step down and it's Steve McNair, the greatest Titans quarterback of all time, and a guy who won an MVP in a Titans uniform. Like, this is recency bias. This is a forgetting where we started from. So I read you the blind resume for a reason, because you won't listen if you hear the name Zach Wilson.
Sure.
But the name Zach Wilson was a highly thought of prospect. Hand up, I really liked Zach Wilson as a prospect. I did. But I think when you look at all of the negatives of Cam Ward, all of the things that he does well, if you look at the data beyond how many passing touchdowns he threw, bro, or the eye test, I think it comes up with a lot more Zach Wilson comp than it does Patrick Mahomes.
But Patrick Mahomes had so many concerns too. Like, can Patrick Mahomes play in structure? Can Patrick Mahomes
those numbers that I put weight in, right? Like weighted on target accuracy, his big throw percentage, his turnover worthy plays. Patrick Mahomes was better in all of those areas than Cam Ward is by a wide margin. Cam Ward is more compared, as I did when I did my Shedeur Sanders breakdown to advocate for Sanders. His accuracy in college is closer to Will Levis than it is to Bo Nix.
Well, I think, what is accuracy? Because I saw somebody in the chat was like, when I think you said accuracy, or Cam Ward isn't as accurate when he completed over 60% of his passes. Like, a completion doesn't mean the ball was accurate. It doesn't mean you're an accurate incompletion passer. Doesn't mean the ball wasn't accurate, right? Like, ball placement is where they're talking about like nuance of the completion. Like, was the ball caught in a spot where the receiver had something to do with it afterwards, or was it a contested tight window throw where the ball had to be so accurate and the ball was caught? There's difference in all of those things. But I feel like this is why the quarterback position is so difficult, because nobody expected Patrick Mahomes to be Patrick Mahomes when he was coming out of Texas Tech and was like a 500 starter at Texas Tech. Nobody thought that. Yeah. Nobody, like Steve McNair was coming out of Alcorn State, and the Titans took him 3 overall and sat him for 2.5 years. You know, like Zach Wilson out of BYU, then you got Baker Mayfield out of Oklahoma go 1. Like you don't know. Like Joe Burrow.
I mean, the quarterback position is
Trevor Lawrence was a can't miss generational guy. And what's happening?
I mean, Josh Allen is a great example of a guy who it was accuracy issues. It was an accuracy issue for a year and a half in the NFL. And then he flipped a switch, got accurate all of a sudden, and became a top 3 quarterback in the league. I will say this, people in the chat, right? Like, hey, we can disagree. I'm open to disagree. I've seen a worst comp I've ever heard. Get this guy off the show, whatever. If you lay out a legitimate argument in the chat, I'll talk about it on here. I'll show it on here.
Again,
if you can lay out a real argument for why the Zach Wilson comparison is bad, other than you don't like it because it hurts your little feelings, we'll talk about it.
Let's go pro by pro, con by con. And for Zach Wilson, just kind of read the pros step by step. I'm going to react to each one with a bite.
Okay. Zach Wilson, pro. Enormous jump in production and play quality in his final year.
I can see that as a con, because why haven't you there's maybe not con, but I need to look more into that.
Sure.
Keep going.
Outstanding 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio in 2020, his final year.
Same thing.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Offers potential as a full field reader.
Okay. Good.
Arm looks substantially more lively with elite highlight level throws on the move. So many guys can have that these days. It doesn't mean anything. Slick ball handler and quick game and RPOs. Sure, that's a polished skill, like indoor basketball guy skill. Twitchy operation, time to get it out easy and easily alters arm slot if needed. That's an outdoor basketball skill. Keep going. Generates sudden drive velocity for seam throws. He's trained well on how to throw.
The football.
Throws with accuracy, working off platform.
Outdoor basketball skill set. Good. Keep going.
Sticks throws into cover 2 windows with great conviction. Unafraid of
Ballsy.
tight window challenges.
Ballsy, but also he played at BYU in the Mountain West.
Gives big targets a chance to make plays on 50-50 balls.
Mountain West.
Deep and intermediate accuracy was outstanding.
Mountain West.
Accuracy is not Mountain West relative. By the way, Cam Ward did not play a ranked team at Miami.
Oh, I know.
He didn't play a single top 25 opponent.
No, I'm very well aware. I was pissed because I had a great futures bet on Miami to make the playoff, and they screwed it away.
Feels pressure bearing down off the edge for Zach Wilson.
Okay. So these are the cons?
These are positive still. Able to make subtle pocket slides and stay throw ready.
Okay.
Athletic play extender with big play mindset outside the pocket.
We talked about that. Kind of most guys are cut from that.
Enough mobility to keep defenses honest.
Sure.
Again, you are just those are the pros.
Those like the last few are kind of like he's a good enough athlete to grow.
Right, but that's what we talk about with Cam Ward. He's a good enough athlete to maneuver in the pocket, extend plays, throws off platform very well, throws on the move very well with accuracy, takes big shots, has a big arm. That is the Cam Ward pro mold right there that I just described.
So now the Zach Wilson cons.
The Zach Wilson cons. Level of competition allowed for bombs away mindset in 2020.
Yeah, I brought that up, right? And that could be so many players. That's Josh Allen. That could be Patrick Mahomes. That could be Cam Ward. That could be Steve McNair. Keep going.
Carries ball down by waist as a pocket scanner.
He could get away with it because the competition. Right. Keep going.
Has tendency to overstride and sail throws at times.
Okay.
Accuracy issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hero ball needs to be dialed back a bit.
He's a college quarterback, and teams win or lose by the college quarterback in college.
Passed up on some easy throws to make a harder throw.
Same thing.
Doesn't work with enough anticipation as a passer.
Mountain West.
Ill-advised throws under pressure turn into interceptions in 2019.
Mountain West. And inexperience.
Went 2-4 against top 25 teams during his career.
Not all him. He played at BYU.
So, right. So, I mean,
teammates.
I appreciate what you're doing here, right? You can poke holes in almost any.
And that's my thought. And like that also can apply to so many different quarterbacks. Those are not unique cons to Cam Ward or Zach Wilson.
But when you look at the general build of how we describe a prospect, right, and how we've described Cam as a great improviser, throws on the run well, does just enough to extend the plays, right? What did Todd McShay say? Great sense of pressure and accurate from arm angles. The same thing was said of Zach Wilson coming out. What did they say about, Steve McNair? Some creativity on the run, creation, right? Like those are the comps that we're talking about with Cam Ward that also were said of Zach Wilson. And then what are the knocks on Cam Ward? Hero ball, accuracy issues, turnover worthy plays, level of competition. That's what I'm saying, which is no, I don't disagree with you, right? Because it can be so many players, but this is why I bring it up, because in all the same ways that we're able to sit here and be like, Cam Ward is Patrick Mahomes, Cam Ward is Steve McNair, it's Mac 9 reincarnated in a Titans uniform.
No,
he could also be Zach Wilson.
We're not saying, but again, I think we're not saying, I'm not saying. Again, that's why I wanted to be very specific with which play style is more accurate, which comp style is more accurate for Cam Ward. Because it's like I liked the way Kobe Bryant played basketball. I modeled my game after Kobe Bryant. Pull-up jumper, creating space with pivots and turns and fadeaway, all that stuff, and jab steps and pump fakes. But am I Kobe Bryant? No, but do I play in a similar way to that because I find that's the way that I can win? Yes. Does the play style look like Patrick Mahomes at times in those moments because he sets a defender up in a lose-lose situation? Yeah, Cam Ward does that. Mahomes has been doing that for almost a decade now. It's crazy. And McNair did a lot of these things at Alcorn State and with the Titans and with the Ravens that made you just be like, yeah, the guy's just different. And a lot of people are saying Cam Ward's just different. And so player comps are not result based. It's what do they look like, and how do they? What are their mechanisms, their mannerisms, their skill sets? How do they? What's their mold? That's what it is. It's trying to be a translation of like he plays the game similar to this guy. Doesn't mean he is that guy, but they play the game the same way rather than he is Brett Favre. No, he's risky.
No,
like
I agree with the idea. Like, and that's the thing that pisses me off about the draft, right? If you look at a player comparison, everybody drafted in the first 3 rounds of the draft is a future All-Pro because we're comparing them to, guys, future All-Pros that oh, how many guys are the next Puka Nacua, right? Like, there's one Puka Nacua. How many guys are the next? Being compared to Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen every year. Like, there's one of each of those guys. And
yeah, but like
unique
who's the next Puka Nacua is not who's the next like actual Puka Nacua. It's who's the next guy that was slept on that's going to be a late round steal.
But like that's the thing.
Because
is like
you know who the Puka Nacua was the next Antonio Brown is what we're honestly saying. Well, are they the same? They're not the same receiver whatsoever, but they were both day 3 steals that fit the right system that blossomed that people passed all over.
Right. And so like you explained, Austin just explained a comp. Sam, you know what a comp is. Austin explained a comp. Stylistically, who does these guys remind you of?
Yes.
Cam Ward reminds me of Zach Wilson. Point blank. Try to disprove me, right? You like all you jabronis in the chat sitting here saying, well, the tape doesn't show it. I don't believe you because if you don't remember Zach Wilson as a prospect, you don't. Like Zach Wilson went 2 overall in a class that was a higher rated quarterback class than this past year, right? The only reason Zach Wilson didn't go number 1 is because of Trevor Lawrence existing. So hit me with a reason other than, well, the tape, right? You guys are not tape experts. Most of you haven't even watched Zach Wilson's college tape. Like I'm reading through that. Point to something that I just read, all of the stylistic things about Zach Wilson, all of the stylistic things about Cam Ward, how they play the game, the pros and the cons for them coming out of college, and they're similar. Okay, again, so try to hit me with something.
BYU beat Tennessee when Zach Wilson was the quarterback in 2019, and I was not surprised. I was not impressed whatsoever by Zach Wilson. I was not. He made a couple big throws that were for like 40-yard plays that was enough to beat Tennessee that particular day, and I was pissed and all that kind of stuff. But Zach Wilson, like when I was not buying into Zach Wilson as a top quarterback prospect. I don't know what Cam Ward's going to be. I am not as sold on Cam Ward as I was on Caleb Williams or as I was on, I don't know, Joe Burrow, or who was I wrong on? I mean, I thought Trevor Lawrence would be great. I thought people thinking Deshaun Watson wasn't going to be good was weird. Yeah.
I was Mr. Jalen Hurts. I was so pro Jalen Hurts as like a sneaky 2nd round guy, and I got that one exactly right.
I'm somewhere on the internet saying Jalen Hurts needs to change positions to play in the NFL.
I also thought Justin Herbert wasn't going to work, right? And Justin Herbert worked great. So like we get him right, we get him wrong, but don't get offended when I make a comp that I think is a very realistic comp, and you guys don't have an answer, right? Like I agree with Vols.
I think they don't have an answer. Comps. Like in a lot of draft sites and draft people, and we do this at some at A2ZSports.com. It's best case, worst case, right? It's like the positive and negative comp. Like, so if you're talking about Cam Ward, a positive comp could be Steve McNair. A negative comp is Zach Wilson. Both things are true.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, like, right, everybody's got a ceiling.
Because we don't know what the player is going to be. But stylistically, they play like Cam Ward plays along the same style of Steve McNair and Zach Wilson. He has similar traits and play style of those players. The good is Steve McNair. The bad is Zach Wilson. It's kind of like that.
Somewhere in between there, maybe.
And will the Titans be happy if he's somewhere between Steve McNair and Zach Wilson? That's a lot of room.
And I would just I would like to encourage people to look in the mirror and think about what you yourself thought 2 months ago before you realized Cam Ward was going to be a Titan. Because
I doubted
so many people out there in the media, even the people that are doing these podcasts, the people that have been doing shows on the radio, what they would have told you 3-4 months ago about Cam Ward and their thoughts about drafting a quarterback are different what them telling you now, because they changed their opinions
but
based
there's
on
also
what
new
the Titans are going to do.
But there's also
I'm not going to do that.
But there's also new information, because in January, I remember in a group text that I believe you were in, Sam, when Destin Adams mocked Cam Ward, number one of the Titans, for A to Z Sports.com, I said he doesn't fit what Brian Callahan wants to do. They were likely to go with Shedeur over Cam. At the time, that's what I felt, and I'm sure you kind of still feel the same way. But here's what makes me, and I'm going to say this on April 11th, an hour and 9 minutes plus into the show. What makes me the most confident in Cam Ward being the right decision for the Titans down the road is the fact that Chad Brinker, Mike Borgonzi, and Brian Callahan knows what it's supposed to look like. Those three guys that are making the decision have spent the majority of their careers around and watching what it's supposed to look like.
Sure.
And of Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow, and Patrick Mahomes. They're different quarterbacks, but they know how that quarterback handles themselves. They know what the arm looks like in real life. They can tell the difference in nope or like, yeah, that guy's different, right? That guy has it. This guy doesn't. Those three guys, because of who they've spent probably a collective 25 years around, they are the three that are making the decision to draft Cam Ward. That's what gives me the most confidence that this could work out.
I think they could get, to me, just because you know what it's supposed to look like doesn't mean you're not going to get it wrong, right?
Sure.
And so, the Titans have gotten a ton wrong recently. Not necessarily under Mike Borgonzi, but Chad Brinker's gotten a ton wrong. Brian Callahan did a ton wrong in his first year as the head coach. I think media does this. I think fans do this. I think we sit here and we play dumb to the fact that maybe the front office sucks and the head coach doesn't know what they're doing. And so we assume that just because the Titans like Cam Ward, that means Cam Ward's going to be awesome, right? So what I'm trying to do is take my evaluation and make it independent of the fact that I didn't like Cam Ward. I don't hate Cam Ward. I just don't like him for the number one pick. I don't think he is the prospect that we are now trying to pretend that he is. My evaluation of him is not going to change just because Mike Borgonzi or Brian Callahan, who, by the way, Brian Callahan doesn't have a job if he doesn't draft a quarterback first overall next year. So if I'm Brian Callahan, I'm selling myself on any quarterback that I can draft at number one because your other option is checks notes, Will Levis again.
Well, you and I can have a discussion on a later day because we disagree on that path. So anyway,
just because the Titans think he's going to be good doesn't mean he's going to be good.
No,
the
for
Titans
sure.
thought Treylon Burks was amazing. Austin,
but those are very different people taking that was not anybody.
But it's still it's an NFL front office, right? And you could have said, John Robinson drafted AJ Brown. He knows what wide receivers are supposed to look like. And you and I sat in a draft room with John Robinson telling us about how Treylon Burks has all the intangibles to be a 1,500-yard guy with a big body that reminds him of all of these NFL comps. And he sucked because it didn't work. And the guy who was supposed to know what it looked like didn't know what it was supposed to look like.
That's why you have to draft the football player and the person. And I think Treylon Burks, the football player, had the potential to do that. But Treylon Burks, the person, is clearly not able to do that. And so I guess that's where I want to come back a little bit because we've both said a lot of things. So just because I said that the three guys, Brinker, Borgonzi, and Callahan, know what it's supposed to look like to have an elite quarterback. They've watched elite quarterbacks do everything. Practice, study, prep, play, everything, right? Train, take care of themselves, all that stuff. Lead. They know what that's supposed to look like. But that doesn't mean just because you can evaluate what it's supposed to look like doesn't mean you can coach it and make it be executed with that person. It's a difference of scouting versus coaching. Scouts are scouts, not coaches. Coaches are coaches, not scouts. It's different. But you can be a great scout and evaluate the player, but maybe you're not a good coach because you don't know how to maximize or put that player in the right spot. So you can evaluate as a scouting brain of what it's supposed to look like, and maybe Cam Ward's got it, but does it work? Who knows? Because you have a different variable set introduced once you get into the actual like part of making it happen. Fair?
Yeah, fair. I'm
Okay.
I'm more on the chat right now.
I know, I can tell.
People in the chat are saying I'm providing opinion, but no data or metrics. I've given you weighted on target percentage. I've given you the evaluations of each player coming out, blind resume, unbiased, right? So you say it was biased, it was unbiased. I described two similar players. When you look at their yes, size, also athletic ability, also production, touchdown to interception ratio in college, quarterback rating in college, Zach Wilson higher than Cam Ward. Level of competition, Zach Wilson played more ranked opponents than Cam Ward did in college. I brought the data for a reason for this comp to make sense. You guys are the ones that are telling me I'm wrong. Why? Because you don't want it to be true.
Well, you don't want it. Yeah, of course. Like, but like, I don't. Like,
and I don't want it to be true either. Like,
yeah.
I'm rooting for Cam Ward to be good. I would rather Cam Ward beat Steve McNair. It's so much better for everybody. Okay, but like, I get annoyed when we sit here and we pretend like we talk ourselves into a guy who we didn't think was the guy 2 months ago into now being like the greatest Titan ever. Like,
I think you're over correcting there. I don't think people are saying he's the greatest Titan ever. I think people are excited about it. Like, people are going to be excited about the first overall draft pick who's a quarterback, regardless of what we thought 4 months ago during the draft process. Like, it happened. It's going to happen. Get excited about it. Be excited about it. And be hopeful that it's going to work out. Because it's not fun to do the other thing. And, like, fans can be fans. And, Sam, you're not here to be a fan. So you can do what you need to do. I just think it's the more people have jumped into Cam Ward, the bigger the separation between he and Shedeur Sanders has gotten across the entire league, not just with the Titans.
But that's hive mindset, right? We see this all the time.
Or that's just people that do this job for a living, doing their job on the timeline that it takes them to do their job.
Sure. But like what I think is funny is the way that we as as media that are not in front offices and as evaluators and as fans as we pretend to have our opinions match what the industry tells us, knowing the industry is just as good at this as we are. Damn near.
It's because
what Easton and I talk. Easton has this saying that we talk about all the time, is that people vastly underestimate the difference between them and an NFL player and vastly overestimate the difference between them and a head coach or a general manager. I think the average fan could blind pick them and pick a really good draft class the same way a GM could, because
well, that's why the person that knows the most about sports never wins the March Madness pool.
Correct.
You know,
but we pretend like that, like what these people who are making these evaluations say is gospel now. And then we all jump on like the herd mentality instead of acknowledging the fact that these people get them wrong just as often as they get them. And so Valdez, I'm going to address this only because you've commented 11 times now, and I don't want you to go to bed thinking about me the entire day.
Oh, he has a super chat for us, so we can use that.
Yeah, BYU, the only legitimate Sanders played bad against BYU. Okay, my comp for Shedeur Sanders is Jared Goff. Jared Goff is known to be a guy who once or twice a year forgets how to play quarterback and throws 5 interceptions. He plays in structure really well.
He did it against the Saints, didn't he, this past year?
Yeah. Easton and I have talked about that on the show too. It's like, you're just waiting. There's going to be a game that Jared Goff turns the ball over 4 times. It was a bad game for Shedeur Sanders. Those games happen. Same thing you could say about every top prospect that has existed.
You know why? That's because Jared Goff's an indoor basketball guy. The Saints blitzed the hell out of him, and he get confused, and he freaked out, and he messed up.
Totally. And I think there's a ceiling of Jared Goff, right? I think there is a clear ceiling for Jared Goff. I mean, I could point to when Cam Ward had a completion percentage under 50% and had 3 turnovers against a UCLA team. Okay, that happened too. So what? Are you out on Cam Ward now because I gave you a game that he played horribly against UCLA, a game that they lost to UCLA and scored 17 points, or when they scored 7 points against Stanford? Or is that? Do we not count that now because it's your boy? Because it's
I just think it's like, the Titans walloped Patrick Mahomes 27-3 in Nissan Stadium. Like that stuff like they did the same thing to Joe Burrow in a bad year, right? Like the Titans in the season that they went 6-11 or that Vrabel got fired, they beat Joe Burrow, the Bengals, 27-3. Things
Yeah, I mean, like
happen. Like that happens all the time.
Like that's my point. Is like I'm not sitting here looking at, hey, Shedeur Sanders played not well against BYU, so he sucks, right? Like in the same way that we're not going to do that with Cam Ward over one game. But again, you're jumping on Cam Ward. You're jumping on the train, forgetting that he played bad against Stanford and UCLA, and that the best defense he played was Cal, right? But
they won that game. It was a chaotic game, but they won it.
Yeah, but you're going to jump on the Shedeur train on one game. Why? Because it makes you feel better. So that's fine, right? Like that's fine. Just admit that that's what you're doing, and that this is just not true. This is statistically inaccurate. Like this, you don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so we've gone through the Voldus super chats. Last super chat before we get the good news, because we got to end on a positive note as the week wraps up. But Andre says, Sam, don't get worked up because half the chat doesn't understand the concept of what you're saying, even if you broke it down to a kindergarten level.
Thank you, Andre. I appreciate it, Andre.
Okay.
We had some people. I've seen Andre. I've seen a couple people like Jeff. Some people in the comments that are like, that are seeing the vision here.
Look, it's not that easy. It's complicated. It's a tough thing to do. Draft a quarterback to help save your franchise. All right. If you got good news in the chat, throw it in there. We want to read some good news as we wrap up this week and head just another week closer to the actual NFL draft happening. So good news here on a Friday. Share it with us. Shout out to Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see them in Lebanon or also online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. If you have good news, please share it in the chat. Good news. Sam, I'll let you kind of check. Hey, here's some good news. Derek just drops $1.99.
Oh,
We'll comment. Just here's a $1.99. Right,
Derek. So I'm going first on the good news, or am I going to the chat for good news?
Whichever you want to do.
All right, let's see. Vanessa says, good news. I'm glad Sam sees what I do. Good news. Liverpool signed Mo Salah. Did they really? Wow. To a contract extension. Wow. That's Premier League winning Liverpool. Yeah. Liverpool, way ahead of the rest of the Premier League.
Oh, you're a big Premier League guy now.
No, I am. Again, do I need to get my Crystal Palace hat out?
No, I saw it yesterday. You're good.
I will. Well, no, hang on. Here we go. Making the change. I gotta support Palace here. I am a baby Premier League fan. I will not watch the games, but I do like tracking along with like the vibes. I will say, Jeff, as a Liverpool fan, like everybody in the US is a Liverpool or a Spurs fan. And I can't get on board with being a part of like the teams that everybody likes.
You don't want to be a Red Sox or Yankees guy. Or Dodgers. I
mean, yeah, it's like, oh, I like the Lakers and the Yankees if you like Liverpool or Tottenham. So Liverpool's great and going to continue to be great. But I've been enjoying. By the way, the cup. I think it's the cup final semifinalist, Crystal Palace Eagles. So yeah, look, nice. They might be going to Wembley, baby. Oh, I just learned all that terminology last week. So
I was about to say, what method of transportation are you going to Hogwarts next semester?
Well, I actually did check out Hogwarts. So I mean, like, I guess this is my good news, right? Like,
yeah.
I had a great trip. I had an awesome trip. Iceland was fantastic, beautiful. Just like looks like another planet. I get why they film Star Wars and all kinds of different like out of Earth movie franchises there, because it legitimately does not look like something that belongs on Earth. So Iceland was just beautiful. And I loved London. I loved all of it. We went to Oxford and checked out all of like the Harry Potter filming sites, which was very cool because I enjoy the Harry Potter movies quite a bit. Went to, a lot of good food, a lot of good Italian food. In London, we got to go to a Premier League game. We went to Phantom of the Opera at His Majesty's Theater. And as a big theater guy, that was really cool. They were I forgot that live theater could be that well performed, just because I've never seen a show. I've never been to Broadway or anything, so I've never seen a show like at that level of professional theater. So that was really cool. I had an awesome trip.
Good.
So that's my good news.
I got more good news, and then I'll hit mine up. Brad, good news. Titans drafting Ward, and Sam's gonna have to deal with it. Jason says, good news. Heading to Florida to visit family and look up some properties to buy. Hitting up Disney and Universal first. Ooh, Jason trying to be a little snowbird action, trying to get down there to Florida. As you know, that maybe. Nick says, good news. Son finally has his first 13U baseball tournament this weekend. No rainouts in the forecast. Yep, do your rain dances there. Derek, good news. Bears fans are allowed to celebrate their first overall quarterback, but Titans fans are a new rule from the NFL.
I don't understand that.
Oh, man. Let's see. Daniel, good news. Sunny and 90 today. So I'm skipping work, going to the beach. Yeah, not here. We also don't have a beach, so it's not 90 here at all. Andre, good news is my neighborhood avoided the flood in Kentucky. Good to know. Sports fan, new job. We double the salary.
Wow.
But on the fun facts about me, I filled out A to Z Sports National, my favorite podcast. How about that?
Yeah,
we're on a fun forum, new employee icebreaker forum there. All right. My good news is I'm just gonna share a show that I think people should watch because it's the happiest show you could ever watch on Netflix. It's Love on the Spectrum. Love on the Spectrum.
Oh, okay.
Is such a good show. You were going to sit there and smile like a goober the entire time for every episode of Love on the Spectrum.
Dude, I don't know what that one dude's name is, but I'm always on TikTok seeing the guy that just roasts his mom like 24/7.
I haven't watched. We years ago watched season 1. We about to finish season 2. Haven't got to season 3, but I think what you're talking about happens in season 3. But Love on the Spectrum is just such a feel-good, awesome, great show.
Connor. Yes. Jake Locker's burners all over it. This guy, Connor, he's just like cooking his mom 24/7.
And so it's just a good show to watch. And I think it's something that opens everybody's eyes to just life and just people working through human things and emotions and new experiences and being brave and doing things that make you uncomfortable. And it's just awesome. It's the best show. So my good news is go watch.
What sparked that good news? Like, did you just watch a new episode?
Or we've been like the last few days. We went back. We finished the show and we're like, all right, now what? And now, okay, found that we loved it. Just for whatever reason, haven't gotten back to it since the first season. So that's my good news. Love on the Spectrum. Go watch it.
All right.
Have you watched it?
I've not sat down and watched the show, but I see a lot of like scenes and clips on TikTok.
You go watch the show. It's phenomenal. Netflix. All right. That's it for us. Make sure you hit that like button. Like the show. Hope everybody has a great, safe weekend. Draft week 1 week closer. We'll see you guys back on a Monday. Have a good weekend. Buck Rising will be live with primetime on Sunday night. We'll catch you later. Appreciate it as always.